We are back with you live once again on another Johnnie Torch Live broadcast. Broadcast number 190 today. Wow, and I'm going to try something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and that is trying to stream from my laptop here. I think it's working, so we are going to continue on. And I'm going to be working on a page here for the Bullets Bourbon #1 remaster. And you're going to get to see the artist in action, although this is just a sort of an editorial job. I'm just editing, and I'm going to be doing some lettering. Probably not the most interesting thing. But you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. This is the page in question we're working on, and I got the chat room open in case anybody wants to stop by and chew the fat, as they used to say, shoot the breeze. Whatever. This is a very easy page. That's another reason why I picked this one. This is from our first issue, and I'll try to jaw a little bit about Bullets Bourbon, something I don't think I do enough. I don't talk enough about Bullets Bourbon, my pride and joy, my boy. Bullets Bourbon, the most epic action-adventure comics. It's tough. That's what I find anyway. It's tough to find superlatives to talk about this project, because it's like trying to extol the virtues of your children to somebody. They're going to say, yeah, you got nice kids. You know, nobody's really going to pay attention to you saying this is the greatest comic book of all time, and they're going to miss out because they're just going to think it's hyperbole. So there you go. Now, I use GIMP because it's free, and I find that to be a pretty good arrangement. It took me a while to get used to, but I think if you are looking for a cost-effective alternative to, you know, Paint Shop and whatever it is that pros use, GIMP works for me. It's, you know, not the greatest thing, I suppose, but it still works for me. Let's see. So, yeah, here we go. And we click the zoom in, and hopefully I don't get copyrighted or something for using GIMP without their permission or something. Okay, so we got some dialogue here. We're going to try to letter. Let's see. And what we use here, we use the little box to create the new dialogue, which is going to be the exact same old dialogue. Now, I'm not really too concerned about spelling errors right now, because I am going to go over this with a fine-tooth comb afterwards. Wait a second. See, I spelled something wrong right there. Again, I'm not really worried about spelling. I can't see what I did wrong. Let's see. Where am I? Yeah, alright. Now, what I do here is try to finagle it, see if I can get it to fit the way I want, see if it is going to take up too much real estate here, see if it fits well, and then I create the new dialogue balloon, and in this case we're gonna try to not get too far off the beaten path. This is pretty much what I've been doing for the past, I don't know, 6 weeks, something like that. And again, not a whole lot of fun, this part of the project, but yep, time consuming. Now, Bullets Bourbon is a project I've been working on since I was 13. Can you believe that? And that goes to show just exactly how dedicated I am to getting this project off the ground. and hopefully making it a multimedia success. And we are on we're going to be starting our 4th story arc, which is really exciting to me. Now, this is a tool I use to basically get rid of a lot of the excess stuff we want to white out here. And it gets rid of it in a hurry. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get the book off the ground as quickly as possible. So I cut some corners. I did hand lettering for the first 4 issues until I learned how to do the get rid of that by pressing that. It's kind of like a tutorial, really, if you're here to learn how to use GIMP. But then when I got pretty good at learning how to use the lettering, I decided to go back and remaster these books and make sure that I was putting my best foot forward. And again, I don't want to be here too long, but give you guys an idea. This is the problem with digitally inking. I never feel that I get quite as straight a line as I should, and I obsess over it sometimes because, hey, who isn't obsessive compulsive? But it's pretty much not noticeable, I think, when you get the aspect ratio where it should be. See, so there we are right there. And this is the origin, so to speak, of Bullets Bourbon. This is the first issue. The inks are pretty solid here. I'm just going to touch them up a little bit. And this is his first meeting with Carrot Top, his main nemesis, his arch rival. And I purposefully tried to keep the first issue pretty simple. I don't know if that was the smartest move in retrospect, but I really wanted it to be a good jumping on point for people to get acclimated to the characters, acclimated to the story, and not feel like they were thrust into a huge, epic extravaganza. I can do a little cleaning usually too when I'm working around some of these edges and stuff here. But I guess there's a trade-off there. Some people might look at the story as being very simplistic, which, you know, it is by design. It's basically just the first meeting of the characters so that you get to know them, you kind of know where they're coming from. And after that is when we launch into some very exciting escapades. Now, usually what I would be listening to right about now is either some music, my boy Phil Collins, or on Johnny's Jukebox, we're spotlighting Kool and the Gang. So I might be listening to that right now. Or sometimes I'll be listening to a YouTube broadcast or a YouTube show. Sometimes Mike S. Miller, sometimes I'll be watching or listening to a show about apologetics so that I can stay sharp and preach the Word of God whenever possible. Don't want that. Here we go. Alright, there we go. Now, this is the problem, though, with I'm trying to boost the font so it's a lot easier to read and not quite so small on the page, which means I'm having to go outside the box a little bit. I don't know if my editor is going to have a bird when he sees this, when he has to make the pages print ready. But I want it to be easily read, because when these things get shrunk down, it gets to be difficult to see. And yeah, just play with it until I'm satisfied. That's about the best as I'm going to get, I think. Alright, And some things I just have to move entirely, like I don't think I'm going to fit that dialogue balloon right there. Gonna have to move it down probably right about there, chest level. It's kind of hard to talk and write at the same time. So let me get this done first. Be a lot more fun when I'm coloring it, but that unfortunately is quite a ways off. Probably about a month from now, I'd say. And until then, I've got all this work to do. We're about halfway through the editing portion here, this remaster, this particular one. Let me see how this is working out. I just want to make sure. Yeah, it looks like it's still on. Gotta be sure. Gotta see these things. Let's see. Yep, still working. Probably no views, just like I expected. Alrighty. So, yeah, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye is about a down-on-his-luck private eye who takes on the most colorful collection of villains imaginable in every issue. And what we mean by that is such as Pencil Neck, not to be confused with Adam Schiff. I got the copyright on Pencil Neck, who is a dangerous, well, I don't want to say assassin. That suggests that he gets paid for killing. He's pretty crazy. He's mad as a March hare, as we describe him. And he's basically my Joker. I don't think I should get in any trouble by saying that, but he's a crazed character who, to him, murder is an art form. And, you know, I always make sure that I do The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon as an all-ages story, though. That is one of the... That's one of the fundamentals. It's gotta be all ages. It's gotta involve the kids. Funny books are for kids, and you don't write down to kids. That's my opinion, anyway. I think they can handle it when they see Pencil Neck erasing people, and, you know, if they can handle Thanos dusting everybody, I think they can handle Pencil Neck erasing people. But you want to make sure that the books are accessible to all ages. I don't believe in doing funny books, as they are no longer regarded in this day and age, with characters that were originally created to entertain children, to get them to be too dark and too violent or suggestive. Yeah. Again, I could be finagling with these things for hours. I'm just going to try to do some basic shapes of these balloons here so they don't look too frizzy. Again, GIMP doesn't give you the roundest edges, but I am satisfied with the result enough to keep using it. I saw somebody doing some balloon work like this, and they were able to get perfectly rounded spheres and so forth, and I was like, man, am I envious. But again, that would cost probably another arm and a leg, and I spent enough on this computer as it is than to have to buy more software. I'm not satisfied with that. So, where we left our intrepid hero, he had just failed. It's kind of hard to have your hero fail, but he failed in the affairs of the heart to win the lovely Desiree Miller in the last story we did, which was When the Night Comes, affectionately titled after the Joe Cocker hit, which was written by Bryan Adams, I think, right? Didn't he write that song? That's a great song. Again, this is This is probably really tedious work that nobody cares about, but it's what I do. And I'm sure you'll have no interest in my doing this. I just laughed and ruined it. But let me boost it up a little bit. There we go. Should make it a little bit easier to do. Okay. And so, with our hero left in a pretty bad way, that's not going to just be simply brushed under the rug for the next issue. The next issue, he is going to quit. Yes, he's going to retire, which makes it possibly the last issue. Not to shock anybody, but it is a possibility, because he has vowed to finally capture Carrot Top or die trying. The Carrot Top is sort of my Murdoch. If you remember the MacGyver series, he was the one that got away. He was the one that MacGyver could never catch. No matter how many times he came back, no matter how hard MacGyver tried, couldn't get Murdoch. Never could get him. And so this is sort of based on that relationship, the relationship of Bullets and Carrot Top. He's always, oops, that's what happens when you make a mistake, but fortunately, let's see, I don't know what went wrong there, but fortunately we got a backup. Alright. But that is basically the relationship between them two. It's also a fascinating one because Carrot Top, as evidenced in this issue as well as the other issue he was in when the night comes, he doesn't really hate Bullets Bourbon. He wants him on his side. Because Carrot Top, to him, everybody can be used. You know, the old Ted DiBiase line, everybody has a price. He kind of feels that way, and he thinks that the only way to meet his goals is to have the best team assembled. And the only way to assemble a good team is to have Bullets Bourbon on it. If you're on the opposite side of him, you're going to lose. So his idea, Carrot Top's, is to get Bullets Bourbon on his side, have him be his general, as it were, and then taking over the world would be easy. But, of course, Bullets Bourbon, being altruistic as he is, will have none of it. No, no, no. He is a good guy through and through. And it's interesting because that's why we have a character named Scotch, Horatio T. Scotch. And he's much more in the gray area. He is not altruistic in the least. He's very self-serving. And Bullets doesn't really like him. But the idea is that he's not all bad. He's just sort of out for himself, you know? He's kind of, I guess, in a way, a Han Solo type character, but he really doesn't project like a heroic image. He's more out for himself. I guess that would be a New Hope version of Han Solo, but in this case, he's much more played for laughs, I suppose. Scotch. And, of course, he's also sort of that PG-rated womanizer that you found on stuff like, you know, Dirk Benedict characters, like Starbuck and Faceman on the A-Team. And that also is like quite the opposite of Bullets Bourbon, who's chivalrous and, you know, the gallant gentleman, as Carrot Top calls him at one point. Let's see. I realize one of the... No, that's already taken care of. Okay. I realize one of the problems I have with doing these videos is I always forget to put the tags on. I don't know if you guys have that problem if you're YouTubers, but it's like I'll have it on for like... I'll have it up, a video up for like 3 days, and then I'll realize, gee, I only got like 3 views. How come? And then I'll look at it and I'll say, oh yeah, that's right. You're supposed to put tags on it so people can find it. So I've got my last video talking about Duel of the Fates, the Colin Trevorrow script, and it's got like 3 views. I'm like, I thought that'd be more popular, and then I look at it and it's still got my Crisis on Infinite Earths tags on it from the last video. I'm like, oh man. Man. I think I can get rid of this. Let's see. So I gotta be a little bit more on the ball making tags. Alright, so the dialogue block, as I suppose it's affectionately called. Yeah, the next thing I gotta do is learn how to get guests on the show. That would probably be fun to get guests on the show. It took me a while to learn how to get my laptop here on screen. I didn't think, like I said, this would be a very entertaining video, but I thought, there might be some folks out there interested. Like to see what I do with the production of a comic book every day, and in this case, this is pretty much... That was kind of... this is what I've been doing lately. It's not the whole job of a comic book creator, but for me lately this has been my job every day. But this is kind of what was fun about Comicsgate at the beginning before it kind of went to hell. Is that you could always have a live stream going on while I was doing this stuff, and it was like, there was community, and there was like, oh man. What did I just do? I messed that up. Wait a minute. Let me just start over with that thing. Alright. I don't know what's happened to Comicsgate. I'm frankly kind of disenfranchised with it, but I wish all the folks luck that are doing what they're doing. I think Cecil just put up his cash grab book and it's doing well, I hear, which is great for him. And, I just hate the infighting. That's what the whole thing has degenerated to. I always said the problem is it's all knives out nowadays. It used to be we go after the SJWs, take the SJWs on because they're ruining an American institution in comics, let alone pretty much everything they touch, such as Star Wars or basically anything. James Bond is apparently another one they got lined up in their sites or whatever. We take them on because they're ruining all these genres and stuff. But again, then it started becoming about personalities, and oh boy, we're gonna pick a fight with whoever and so instead of making great comics and making good alternatives to the big two. And that's when you have the problems we're having now. I don't know. I still consider myself Comicsgate. I mean, I have those ideals, The problem is I don't want to be identified with any personalities. I kind of feel like what Comicsgate means to me isn't what it means to other people. I'm a Christian, so it's like I believe in Christian Comicsgate, which means that, you're still allowed your position of, publicly having Christian views and so forth and not being silenced because of them, because that's kind of what was going on at the time. It seemed like there was a lot of pushback with Mike S. Miller and Doug TenNapel, and it kind of reflected, badly on Comicsgate if you're a Christian, because that's what was going on in the big two. It was just do what you're told. Keep your politics to yourself if you're a conservative. Keep your religious views to yourself. And in my opinion, anyway, that's where Comicsgate went wrong. They started telling Mike S. Miller, EVS started telling Mike S. Miller what he couldn't say because it was going to offend customers. But the point isn't that you're going to offend customers. The point is you're not supposed to be silencing people in the industry, which is basically what the SJWs were doing. So, again, it's difficult. You know, people want to walk that line and say, well, you know, you're chasing customers away. There's no real chasing customers away because the books themselves are supposed to be apolitical. At least that's my opinion. Unless you're purposefully going to do a political book, which is fine. But something like this, for example, Bullets Bourbon, there's no room for politics. And that doesn't change my beliefs. I think if you look at my Twitter on any given day, you're going to know very clearly on what side of the aisle I'm on. But that's it. You're allowed your personal beliefs, but I don't really reflect them in the books because it's supposed to be entertainment. And in my opinion, I think comics should always be entertainment first. You shouldn't be trying to lecture somebody. You're an entertainer. And this, you know, more or less goes if you're an actor or a writer or whatever it is. Your job is to entertain first and foremost. And that's what I feel my job is. It's not really to lecture. Now, again, does that mean that you can't have anything slightly political or slightly religious in the books? No. I personally have some religious discussions coming up in some of the upcoming stories that I haven't printed yet, haven't published yet. And again, it's not meant to be done, though, in a preachy way. It's basically a slice of life because, you know, people have different worldviews and so on and so forth, and to completely shut up one is not, you know, that's not realistic, you know, that's not a realistic take. But again, I make a concerted effort anyway to keep from truly getting in the minutia, so to speak, of politics. Let's see, this is going to be a difficult one. This balloon is pretty big. And I'm imagining I'm probably going to have to put it up here, start up here, and then drop it about there. If it cuts off a little of their hats or something, it's not too big of an issue. But let's see. Pickle Puss is a lot of fun because he's such a, you know, he's like the evil opposite of Chubby. Chubby is Bullet's police friend there, and he's kind of sort of modeled on Fozzie Bear. He's kind of like eager to please. I always thought maybe an interesting story would be if they both had to work together, Chubby and Pickle Puss. And Carrot Top does not treat him all that well. But he is still loyal. Partially because I think they were friends since childhood. And he came to his aid. Carrot Top came to his aid more than once. I have the book actually beside me, so I don't have to move this around. But it's easier actually to do this. Alright, now this is the scary part. Let me see how far down this is going to go. Yeah, see, that's a lot of real estate getting taken up here. So I might have to pull this back a little more. And see if I can fit it in. I could probably pull it back this way more. I'll cover up less if I just try to keep it off of Pickle Puss's hat, because I can start the sentences way over here. And that should work out. Yeah, see? That's about right. Alrighty. Let's see. What else is there to talk about? What shall we talk about? It's that guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, Indiana Jones, of course, is a inspiration for Bullets Bourbon. It's basically the 80s action hero. I always come back to that. The 80s action hero is what inspired Bullets Bourbon. There's a little hint of, like, you know, sort of a modern Dick Tracy. I think a lot of people always say that when they see the books. They're like, is he supposed to be like Dick Tracy? And I'm like, yeah, basically, but the idea is different than what Chester Gould was doing. Gould was doing more like serious crime drama. This is very much in line with like Batman the Animated Series and so forth. It's not meant to be too real world. Again, I don't want these things to be too dark and grim or whatever. It's just meant to be fun. It's meant to be escapist. And for the most part, they are entertaining. Or at least I hope so. They're entertaining to me. I guess that's all that matters. I think the best writing always comes if you're trying to entertain yourself. Because if you're trying to write to an audience, you're never going to find that audience. I mean, that's kind of my experience anyway. I see a lot of people trying to do that, trying to write for, like, I don't know, either they don't end up liking what they write, or people reject it because it doesn't seem earnest, you know what I mean? It seems like the person's heart isn't in it. So you have to really write what you want, you know what I mean? You gotta write what pleases you. And you gotta hope that there's a market out there that, you know, is looking for that, whatever it is that you're writing. This line is kind of thick. I don't know if I should thicken it up or thin it out. Maybe I'll thicken it up a little. I'm sure there's a lot of professionals out there that are watching this that are probably cursing their screens right now. What is he doing? Don't you know you should be doing this? You should be doing that. I don't mind constructive criticism. I know, you know, if something is going to help me out technically, I'll welcome the criticism. I just don't like, you know, you don't go into somebody's house and tell them what to do. You know what I mean? If this works for me, if this is how I do it and it works for me, that's fine. That's enough for you, really. You don't need to horn in with your opinion. If I may be frank. But if you know, have a technical critique or something and say, hey, look, you know, maybe you should you know, use a different font, or, you know, the brush size is probably, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I use a 2 on the brush size. That seems to give me the best look that I want. But I mean, if you got, you know, suggestions otherwise, that's fine. You know, I mean, I'll listen to them, and if I think it helps, I'll use it. But again, I don't ever want to feel beholden to do something because somebody says, well, this is the way you do it. You know, that doesn't work for me. I have to do it my own way. And if it's the wrong way, from other people's perspective, that's fine. I mean, it works for me. But again, I'll never really bite somebody's head off for trying to help, you know what I mean? If you have some kind of shortcut that'll make this easier, then by all means, that's fine. I mean, the worst that can happen is I just say thank you and reject it. But this is the way I've been doing it for many years now. Many years have gone by, and the J-Man has been making his comics. I'm probably going to have to pick this up a little bit. This line's a little low. I'll probably break into the other panel a little bit here. Let's see. We are going to finally meet Carrot Top's father in the next exciting issue, which hopefully will be out sometime this summer. I'm hoping to get this issue done by spring, which, I don't know. It's getting kind of close now. We're at the end of January. And I don't know. I don't want to make promises, but hopefully by spring. And then we meet Carrot Top's father, which is a lot of fun. He's a gangster. Can you imagine that? How did Carrot Top wind up with a gangster for a father? That's what I mean about if you watched my top 10 rules for writing, and nobody did. If you watch that, I talk about like planting seeds and so forth, and a lot of these seeds nobody really sees coming. But for instance, when I did the first, both stories that involved Carrot Top, both of them involved him talking about his father, however briefly, and the idea was to subconsciously put it in your mind that, yeah, his father was a big deal to him. And now we're going to meet him and you're going to understand why. So you kind of get the reader subconsciously ready to accept this. And, once you actually do it, it's off to the races. It's a lot of fun. But you kind of got to subliminally set it up. And it's the same thing with Veronica. We're gonna meet Veronica finally in the next story. And Veronica is... Well, we don't really know what Veronica is, do we? She's been on the phone with Carrot Top the last 2 stories he's been in. And just exactly what is she to him? We don't know that. We don't know her story at all, but she is going to show up and lend her assistance to Carrot Top, and we will hear her whole story. Not in the next issue. We just introduce her in the next issue, but we are going to hear her story in the following issue after that. So that's a lot of fun. It's fun to be able to have a female villainess, because all these crazy looking bad guys are cool and all, but it's like, it's more fun to have a real human looking female baddie. And how is Bullets Bourbon going to react to that? Or to her, I guess I should say. And we will find out when we do that episode. Coming up soon. Alright, let's see. Yeah, we're almost done for this afternoon. Would have been going on here for, I don't know, about a half hour. Really, half hour already? Yeah, let's see. Yep. Looks pretty good. Gotta clean it up some. Yeah. I'm pretty protective of showing scenes. I mean, this is the first book, so this whole book is pretty much like a commercial for the whole series. I don't like blowing the story points, the upcoming story plot points and stuff, so I try not to say too much. And that might be the reason why I don't have, like, too much promotional material out there like I should have. Because I'm like, well, I can't show that. I want people to be surprised when they see that. But then again, it's one of those things, you don't show enough, people don't care. So I've got to find the correct balance of how much to keep close to the chest to surprise readers, or to, you know, give them something they weren't necessarily expecting. And how much you can put in the trailers and the commercials and the, you know, the ads or whatever. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's not a business to get in for the faint of heart. I was looking at a quote the other day of the great Jack King Kirby, and he said, "Comics will break your heart, kid." And it's true. It's damn true. But I love them. I love making them, love reading them. I will never stop. I'll be at the old folks' home, and I will still be making comics, because once you're a storyteller, or an artist, I suppose, that's God's gift. That's the gift God gave you. You can't just turn it on and off. You want to tell stories, and you're never going to want to stop telling stories. And you shouldn't. You should always, no matter what, give it your all. You might not be rich, who knows? You might be successful. But you have to use that creative energy. It's a little bit difficult for me in that I'm a writer that learned to draw so that I could facilitate my stories. I never wanted to be a prose writer. That never interested me. I always wanted to show my stories visually. And so I learned how to draw, and I'm self-taught. But again, you know, a lot of people take for granted that. You know what I mean? That is a beautiful thing, when you could teach yourself how to draw. And you know, with study, you can make it happen. You don't have to have this, you know, professional, for lack of a better word, style. I mean, you know, they kind of are pushing the 90s style, which I never liked. I personally always liked the Bruce Timm animated style, soft and you know, colorful, and you know, it works well with what I'm doing. So it didn't really take me too long to learn. But you want to learn to draw, you know, McFarlane style or whatever. That, you know, if you apply yourself, you can do that too. In this case, I just wanted to do Bruce Timm style. That was all I was trying to do. And of course, I studied other, you know, artists that I enjoy. John Romita, senior and junior, but senior mostly, and Ty Templeton, Sal Buscema. Those were my favorite guys. They had very nice, soft, you know, looks, the pretty looks. You know what I mean? They didn't go for the over detailed 30,000 lines in a face and, you know, all that stuff. And that's what I was trying to emulate, was that kind of style. And I you know, I don't put my name in the same sentence as any of those artists, heaven knows, but you know, I think I did latch on to them enough to create my own style and, you know, have a distinct style of my own. Alrighty, let's see. Of course, to me, Stan the Man Lee is the last word on storytellers, comic storytellers. There's Stan Lee and there's everyone else. A lot of people don't want to give Stan the credit, I think, anymore. And they try to do the whole thing like they do with George Lucas, where he was just sort of a figurehead, and nah, that's nonsense. Stan Lee was the creative genius behind these things. Of course, he had a lot of help. Everybody does in one form or another, but it's the same thing with George Lucas. Of course, he had help. But there's got to be one creative mind behind these things that can see what others can't. And I think, you know, George Lucas has that. Stan had it, Walt Disney had it, Jim Henson had it. Those are my heroes. In the professional world, of course. Yep. And that's kind of what I try to emulate too. I mean, I try to have my own world. You know what I mean? This is obviously a heightened reality where people are dressed. I mean, not dressed, but I mean, people are walking around looking like carrots and pencils and whatever, and you have to make that make sense within your own world. It is not, you know, the real world. This is a heightened reality, of course. And I always find the best stories do kind of come from that heightened world. I don't like things to be too realistic, because if I wanted realism, all I have to do is turn on the news. All I have to do is walk out the front door. I don't want realism. I want to be shown something I can't see every day. And that's kind of the way it is here. I mean, we don't explain why Pencil Neck is the way he is, why he has that power, why he looks like he does. He was just born that way. That's kind of what it is. I mean, I suppose that was Stan Lee's whole thing about the mutants, right? They're just born that way. That's kind of what he is, too. That he's just born that way, and people don't question it. I mean, they might give him strange looks like, wow, he's weird. But they don't really, because to them this is normal. This is what people look like in this world. And I think that's about it. Let's see. I think we've done everything on this page that needs to be done. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I can futz around with the page a little bit more with some of these little cleanup things that need to be done. And I'll do that for a couple minutes here before we head out. See, there's some thick lines here that need to be cleaned up. But we pretty much did the lettering. I saw the Green Arrow and the Black Canaries. Is that what it's called? Or the Green Arrow and the Canaries or something? I thought it was pretty good. I didn't have a problem with it. I think the problem I have with it is I don't understand why they felt like going back into the past with this. I mean the future. I don't understand why they didn't keep her in the past, I guess is what I was trying to say. It's like we put all the worlds together now in the multiverse, and now we're still going to have a future timeline where I guess somehow Dinah and Laurel are there in the future for no apparent reason, and we're going to have that storyline going on concurrent with whatever's going on in present day. I don't know. I would have rather they contrived to keep me an adult or whatever in 2020. But I like the character. I like those characters, those three actresses. They're good, and it's like I like to see them have further adventures. I guess this means Renee is out of a job because Arrow's ending and he's the only one without a spin-off. So that is kind of weird. I'm not sure about the whole thing. They brought back JJ and he's not a villain, and then Connor's the villain now. I don't know. I don't think the premise is that good either, with Mia being sort of a socialite. That seems kind of boring. Or let me put it this way. What made me interested in the character was what they showed us in like the last season of Arrow, where she's sort of a rough and tumble gal that's sort of a scrappy fighter fighting for her life, and now she's like got boyfriend troubles, and she's, I don't know, going to gala events with ball gowns and stuff. It kind of felt like a different character, which I guess it's supposed to, because this is like a different reality for her. But that's not the character I was interested in the first time around, and they probably should alter that. If that's what they're going to do going forward, I would say try to keep away from that. Alright, we're going to wrap it up here now. Thank you everyone for joining us. if you did deign to click that that link and watch this video, thank you for joining us. We do a live broadcast every Saturday on The Only Way to Spend Your Saturday, where we talk about all the news there is in pop culture. But I'm going to see if maybe I can do an editing, drawing, / coloring / lettering stream every now and again. If you found it interesting, let me know in the comments below, where I just sort of speak my mind and ramble while I'm working. It's not that easy, really, to work and ramble at the same time. It's much easier for me to just listen to somebody else ramble while I'm working. But really eager for you guys to check out the link in the description below for the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. As you can see, all the action, adventure, and shenanigans that Bullets gets into on a regular basis, fighting the most diabolical, evil, and colorful collection of villains imaginable. So check that link in the description below. Make sure you leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and meet us here again on Saturday for another Johnny Torch live program. So until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, check out the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye, and I'll be with you again real soon.